why is it so important? The importance of taking up this lawsuit representing these families first and foremost. Why is that important?
Well, the roadways really require public safety, and when public safety breaks down on the roadways, people get killed, severely injured. And so the Lopez family, Gonzalez, Pettis, Derek Lacey, Mr. Locke, Manuel Salazar, children were devastated. Other families were devastated as a result of this incident. And it's a result of not following traffic rules and regulations. It's a result of other possible issues that's happened in a construction zone. And there may be issues, of course, of who the driver was, his background, qualifications, and of course, companies doing the proper background checks to make sure that they have safe drivers behind the wheel. We see all too often in my law firm unqualified drivers that companies should have discovered. And so this lawsuit is extremely serious because we're dealing with public safety and people being injured and killed. It's also very important because right now at the legislature, as we speak, they're trying to change the laws, and they're going to make it less safe on the public roadways. Our government, if they pass laws, they're trying to cap people's claims. There's some attempts to cap deaths at $1 million, pain and suffering at $100,000. And when you start doing that, you erode safety on the roadway even further, because now these large corporations are able to overlook safety departments, overlook implementation of safety. And so right now we are at a crisis point, a major crisis in Texas regarding public safety should some of those laws get passed.
You mentioned some of these families and some of the names. In speaking with the families, how are they doing? How are they processing this all and dealing with their loss?
Any person watching this news program, that question, it almost speaks for itself. It's the most devastating thing that can happen when you have entire families removed from the face of this earth because of negligence, possibly gross negligence, and those types of issues. There is nothing you can say to make them feel better, get better, because they have just experienced a catastrophic loss beyond imagination. And I will tell you this: this isn't the first. I represent people that were killed when a FedEx truck went right at them and wiped out generations at one time. And so it's not uncommon. I mean, it's actually fairly common that people are killed and maimed in this country on a regular basis and in Texas every day.
And so taking this lawsuit up against ZBN Transport, why is it so important to hold them accountable? Of course, you talked about it. You mentioned the hiring processes and things of that nature, and that's something that's listed in the lawsuit is the negligence of the hiring. But why is it so important to hold these corporations accountable?
Well, for these families, every family that goes through a catastrophic loss wants justice. But it's also so vital for all of us that if you don't let the court systems work to determine the amount of justice that a family can receive for injuries or for the deaths, if you don't let that happen, then now your roadway is going to be chaotic because now there's no accountability. There's zero accountability. And so it's important for all of us as a society, as a state, in your city, in your family, with your friends. If you lose that accountability, public safety is out the window and problems will increase and increase and increase. And I'm kind of worried that our Texas legislature is going to let that happen. And I hope your viewers will reach out to the legislators and tell them, please stop, because we don't want any more of these types of incidents on our roadway. And they have the power to protect us, and only they can do that. And if they choose to make the laws easier for trucking companies and drivers who kill and maim, then there's going to be more death and destruction on our roadways.
A quick question about Amazon not being added to this lawsuit. I spoke with a lawyer yesterday, and he's because the driver was driving an Amazon truck, he feels that they should be held responsible as well. I'm curious to know why you only have a ZBN Transport and Mr. Araya on, on the listed as the defendants in this lawsuit and not Amazon.
No, there's going to be many other laws. I mean, they are listed. Maybe you haven't seen the copy, but I'm looking at the lawsuit and they're listed in there. And we're at the beginning of this lawsuit, and when you start a lawsuit, there's a discovery process, there's investigation, and of course, this incident just happened on March 13th. But no, they have been named, and there may be other parties named in this lawsuit as we develop the evidence in this case. We know what happened in a construction area. That may be an issue. We know that you have an Amazon trailer. How they determine the hiring of this trucking company and truck driver, that will be an issue. All of these issues will be explored within the legal setting of this lawsuit.
Let's see. You talk about the legislature. I just really shortly because that is something that we are in the middle of the session right now, and you talk about the importance of making sure that people understand what's going on and paying attention. And I think it's important for attorneys like yourself who operate in these fields to bring this to people's attention or at least to make it known. Why, the average driver you talked about, they need to understand, that certain things are certain people are fighting for them or not fighting for them. But how dangerous again would this be if these laws are passed that you mentioned before, that would in your words make it easier for these truck
I
companies?
think, well, first of all, if you cap death cases at $1 million, it will be so easy for them to pay off death cases. And when you have a financial situation that companies have to be careful of, versus paying out 1 million versus 20 million or 15 million, depending upon those cases, that makes those companies think twice about what's in our safety department. What are we doing with our drivers? How are we training people? Whether it's trucking companies or whether it's just companies with people on the roadway, it makes us all kind of look over our shoulder and say, hey, we don't want to have a big problem. So what are we doing to be safer? And so when you lower the payout that a defendant or insurance company has to have, lower it, now they don't have to look over their shoulder anymore. They don't have to worry. They can afford to pay out claims, and the people that are injured and maimed or have lost a loved one and their entire life is shattered, they're not going to be fairly compensated. And companies will be able to just continue to operate in an unsafe manner that is going to increase deaths and injuries on the Texas roadways.
Do you find, I have just a couple more questions. First, do you find that in these situations, often the drivers who are driving these trucks are under some sort of influence, some kind of narcotic or drug of some sort in these instances?
It's all across the board. I've done thousands of cases, thousands and thousands of, uh, and many death cases, hundreds and hundreds of them, uh, and it's all across the board. I mean, I've seen them on these cell phones that are extremely dangerous. If you're on a cell phone, hands free, going down the roadway, that's equivalent to driving intoxicated because your mind is focused on the phone. There's lots of scientific studies that we use in courtrooms to establish that. Uh, there are people that are on meth. There are people smoking marijuana. There are people drunk. There are people on prescription drugs. Uh, I mean, it's the whole gambit. There are people that, you know, generally, if they're driving down the road and they don't have anything in their system, and they're not on a phone, uh, their likelihood of rear-ending someone or hurting someone is catastrophically less than those other areas that I've just described. So, and we've seen many things. People looking down at their maps and directions, not paying attention. So, it's not just one thing. I've done catastrophic death cases where someone is just not paying attention, looking out the window, and boom, they're daydreaming. They haven't got enough sleep. That's another thing we see a lot. Fatigue drivers. We see drivers that are unqualified. Sometimes they get young drivers behind the wheel, and they don't have the experience driving, and they get into these incidents. So that's why safety departments are so important. That's why training is so important, because and that's why the random drug testing is important. That's why having cell phone policies is important. So many of these policies and procedures that you train on and enforce, they prevent injuries and deaths on the roadway, and that is the key. And so when you lower the threshold for safety on the roadways, as I think is going to happen with our Texas legislature, they're supposed to be responsible and protect us, but when they start protecting companies and not people, that's a problem. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're trying to protect big corporations, big insurance companies, and if they injure and maim you, they'd rather protect those corporations than you, the citizen driving down the roadway.
Mr. Henry, my last question for you. Is your firm looking into any other crashes that have happened in that particular stretch of highway on 35 and Palmer? And do you know, I know that there's one that happened a couple weeks ago before this crash happened. Is that something that your firm is looking into?
We regularly have cases that arise out of that particular highway. It's not unusual in areas where you do have construction slowing down. You end up with often many more collisions. So that's a whole nother issue we didn't discuss. But road construction, how it's set up, how it's properly warning people, how it's not confusing to the drivers, that becomes extremely important in these situations too.
Is there anything else you'd like to add that I haven't asked you or you feel is important?
Yeah, I think what is important right now to all your viewers is to reach out to your senator, your representative, and ask them to please protect people, and don't pass those laws that are going to cap the awards that juries may award for people. Don't enter into rules and laws that are going to increase danger on our roadway and increase deaths and injuries. And they're doing it right now, and that's one of the most important things about this interview that needs to be conveyed to your viewing audience. And we're devastated, seeing what's happened to our clients. They're devastated, and they don't want that to happen to anybody else.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time this morning, and I hope you have a good day.
Okay, you too. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for watching. Please hit the subscribe button and get the latest news by downloading the CBS Austin News app.